Hello. Hi, Sonia. Hi.
Hey.
So here we are. This is going to be our very first episode of our new podcast called In the Field, and it's sponsored by Field Eagle. And this podcast is going to be all about, discussing topics around industry and technology. So this has been in the making for a little while now. So, very excited to get this launched. And today we have the founder of Field Eagle, Sonia Couto, who I'm going to be interviewing. And, what a perfect first guest for the episode. So, Sonia, I know like you are, you've been in the tech industry for over a decade. You have a lot of awards that you've won for business leadership and innovation. So your bio is quite amazing, but I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and also to tell us a little bit about Field Eagle, like just the product itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, my name is Sonia, and I'm the founder of Field Eagle. Field Eagle is a product that's been built very specific for a certain type of business and industry, which we'll get into a little bit later. But essentially, I've been in the tech industry for over 15 years now, and Field Eagle actually came about as a result of being part of another company that saw a need in the industry. And we thought, what a great opportunity to build a product, because we saw that there was different industries who were looking for something that sort of did the same thing. And we thought, instead of building, a custom solution for each one of those clients, why don't we build something that's a product? So that sort of became the journey that started Field Eagle. It's been a very long, gratifying and painful journey. It hasn't always been, all fun and games. It's really challenging building a product in the specific industries that we're in for Field Eagle. So
Yeah.
it has had a very, very long journey, many different people involved. But it is my baby. It's a product that I really enjoy working on, and all the sweat and tears has been worth it. And now I'm really excited to be able to, really be launching the product worldwide and being able to do this podcast and talking more about technology, which is something that I really love. And I want to solve all the world's problems with good technology, not bad technology. And I just feel like Field Eagle sort of fits into that space directly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, adding to that, like a little bit more. So, what sort of problems does Field Eagle solve, like in the space of the industries that it's working with? That is revolutionary using tech
Yeah.
to solve this problem.
So I think I should start by saying that the main industry that Field Eagle started in is actually mining
Mm-hmm.
and oil and gas. But the big players that we were working with when we first started the product was mining. And the problem that we were trying to solve was, there was a lot of data that was being collected out on the field that was still being done through paper and pen. So a person would go out, and I'm talking about a lot of different types of data being collected. So it can be asset management, doing so asset management, health and safety, um, uh, any inspections, so anything that required a person to go out in the field and gather the data. And traditionally in mining, the way that was being done was with literally a paper and pen. So we had a lot of people coming to us saying, it's great, we go out with paper and pen, we collect all of this data. It takes sometimes 2 to 3 weeks to collect the data, but then the person needs to go back to the office, fill out all of these reports. That can take another week or 2 or 4, and then they have to send these reports out to their clients, or the papers get filed somewhere, and
Yeah.
who really knows what gets done with them afterwards. I guess if there's an incident on site, they'll go and try and dig it up. So we saw a real problem with like all of this data being collected, but nothing really being done to it. So we saw an opportunity to build a technology that would cater to, not only mining, but oil and gas,
Yeah.
manufacturing, any industry that really collects data, through the collects data through forms,
Mm-hmm.
questions and answers, and then we actually do something to the data. So let's talk about inspections, for example, which is a big piece that's incorporated in Field Eagle. So
Yeah.
if an inspector has to go out and fill out a form of, was the health certificate visible at the eye wash station location? Yes or no? Um, where the wheel pressure at the level that it's supposed to be? Yes or no? Or compliant or non-compliant? That's all data that's being collected out in the field now.
Right.
Now, with Field Eagle, once an inspector, for example, is done creating gathering all of that information, the only thing they need to do is sign and submit that inspection. And I should mention that, because we're working with companies like mine, oil and gas, the Field ecosystem is completely available offline. So you do not have to have internet in order to actually
Right.
perform these.
Yeah. Like often the oil rigs kind of thing. Like,
yeah, because they still, like, a lot of mines still use satellite.
Mm-hmm.
So internet is just sometimes impossible to get. So it's important to have a system that's able to work offline.
Yeah.
So once all that data is collected, we actually do something to it in Field Eagle. And that data is used for reports,
Mm-hmm.
having immediate reports that sometimes a mining company needs to provide their clients, whether it's for preventative maintenance or anything that's required.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's additional actions that we can do to this data that's collected. So it could be that there's something that's really critical out on the site that needs immediate attention, or that inspection only passed 50%, but 50% failed. So what are the items that failed?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that need to be fixed? So there's a lot of there's a lot of data collected, and there's actions behind this data.
Yeah.
And in addition to having all the actions and things that you can do and alerts, there's you can also use this data to standardize a process within an organization. So again, back to mining, and I keep going back to mining because it's an industry that I've worked heavily with the Field Eagle system. Once the data is collected, it's there. A lot of these companies started realizing that they had all of these people out in the field in different age ranges. A lot of them had been doing this for 30 years. All of the knowledge base was in their head.
Mm-hmm.
And as people started retiring, they were losing all of this knowledge base. But then they also realized that everyone was performing an inspection differently. This person is doing it this way based on his or her experience.
Mm-hmm.
That person doing it the same. So they thought, how can we gather this data to start standardizing?
Yeah, that would be so important.
Inspections are done throughout our entire organization. And you're talking about companies that are doing inspections in Australia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, all over the world. So it's important to start getting some standardization in place. And the Field Eagle technology system really came in to sort of help with that. And it's grown beyond that, but that's sort of, I know that was a really long answer. Sorry, Christine.
No, it's okay.
I'm passionate about it, so I can go on and on forever.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, it's a disruptor, right, in the industry, because it's digitizing the process. It's storing data in the cloud versus a file folder. And overall, because these industries are so heavily regulated too. So, they have to meet these certain standards. So it makes it easier for that. I think it improves health and safety, mitigates environmental disasters as well. So, it's a great concept that you have. Yes.
I always tell people, especially like in oil and gas, sometimes it's in mining too. Usually when you hear in the news that there was like an oil spill somewhere, for example, and you keep listening to the news, and then they do their investigation. Usually like 85% of the time, the disaster happened because of a bad inspection.
Right.
Or something was missed in the inspection. There was rust in the pipeline, and it wasn't looked at, and nobody, when doing the inspection, they missed it, and then it ended up turning into a major oil spill. So there's always, the inspections in these types of industry and just data collection is extremely important, and has a huge impact on the business, because these are high risk industries that if something happens, it's not a slap in the wrist, right? It means someone could lose their life. In mining, there have been disasters where people lose their lives, and environmental damage, and all of these disasters and these accidents that happen. The companies that are working and managing that, they're liable for all of that. So it's
Yeah.
really important that they have systems in place to try to mitigate those risks.
Yes, and a very easy audit trail, for them to retrieve from the cloud, in a situation like whenever they need it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and having those standards available directly, on a tablet to say, you know what, I'm inspecting this. I know that there's a regulatory body and a standard that goes along with
Mhm.
this. Here it is. Here's a video of how to do it. Here's
Yeah.
training on how to inspect that. Like, all of this information that's now available that wasn't before through a paper and pen, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, we're talking about these sort of legacy industries. They've been around forever, and you're approaching them. They're using a pen and paper, right? And now you're saying, "Hey, let's use a digital solution," right? Like, I feel like these legacy industries are been slower to move to digital processes. But I'm wondering, like, if COVID has had any impact on this, because we've seen it rapidly digitize a lot of industries.
Yeah.
So have you noticed a push forward in digitization in these industries?
um, I'm going to say yes to a certain degree. It really
Yeah.
depends on the industry. I know oil and gas, they're a little bit ahead of a lot of other industries. They're very high risk. So they welcome technology a little bit more than some of these other industries. Mining
Mhm.
is, unfortunately a little bit behind. They know that they need to get up to date, and they need to start using machine learning, AI, all of this technology to help
Mhm.
them, and also to bring on um, new staff and new employees and new people to be interested in mining. Because every time you think of mining, you think of a guy wearing a hard hat and a pitchfork, right? Mining
Right.
has changed. Now there's women in mining. It's a massive industry. However, I do think they have a hard time retaining talent because it's still that old school mentality. So they still need to bring in new technology. Now, has COVID really changed anything? I'd love to say yes, because I have seen it in certain cases, but
Mhm.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Because inspections didn't really stop, or data collection didn't really stop. They stopped for a little while, but these types of industries, they can't afford to like not be doing that work.
Yeah.
That work still needs to be done. So they had to put safety protocols in place. Now, companies like Field Eagle, who started reaching out to these companies and saying, "Hey, let us help you through this, COVID process, and help you digitize
Mhm.
so that inspectors are spending less time out on the field and are feeling safe." Though it's really up to the technology companies to stay ahead and teach companies like mining, oil and gas, that the technology is there and it's available for them. Are these companies going to go out and look for these things and do it themselves?
Mhm.
Love to say yes, but I don't think that necessarily. I think some of the big players will, because they have the money and resources to put into that, but not all. I was just at a mining event last week, and that was one of the big things we were talking about, where they were saying, in order for mining to really get 20 years ahead of where they are, they're going to rely on other industries to do the work based on the knowledge base and partnerships that they have, and then sort of bring that
Mhm.
to mining. They don't
Mhm.
necessarily feel that actual mining companies are going to take the step further than what they have to get there.
Right.
Now
Right.
that
Okay.
could change. That could
Yeah.
change, but
Yeah.
that's sort of where I feel they are at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could start to see that shift changing like faster and faster.
Yeah, and don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, like, these are companies that have years and years and years of data that they've collected. This is
Mhm.
like thousands and thousands of amounts of data. I think that if they took the initiative to really do something with that data, that would be really powerful. They could create systems that are very specific for their industry, and that's another problem, right? You're talking about industries that within an organization are using 5 to 10 to 15 different systems, and every
Right.
system
Yeah. Yeah.
every system does a particular thing, and these systems don't speak to one another.
Yes, yes.
So they need technology APIs that need to be built so that all of these technologies can speak to one another, and then have a centralized data place where they can actually apply um, artificial intelligence and apply machine learning. Because really, if you have historical data, you can start applying machine learning and AI, and then start gathering new data, and then the AI
Mhm.
continues learning from that, right? But you
Yeah,
need a
yeah.
starting point, and it's like they already have thousands and thousands of amounts of data, years, over 50 years of it. And I really think that if they put it to good use, it would be very beneficial for them.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like this is almost like an evolutionary moment too, maybe for the product as well, based on what you're discussing. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about being a founder, because you are the founder of this product, and one of the things that I'm curious to know is that being a woman in tech, right? This is traditionally been predominantly dominated by men in positions. And now you're going to industries like mining and manufacturing and constructions, which are also spaces traditionally, where men hold the majority of the jobs. So how has that been for you as a woman going into these spaces, not only in tech, but in industry? And, have you ever felt like there may have been a disadvantage to you in this space?
I get this asked this question every single time I talk to somebody. They're like, "Oh, you're in
I'm
tech,
so
such a
curious.
male-dominated industry," and then, "Oh, mining."
Yeah.
Um, okay, I think my response is going to be a little bit what people don't expect. Has there been bias? Like, I've been in this industry for 15 years, and
Yeah.
I feel like where I am today in these types of industries that are male dominated is very different than back then. But I have to say, and I have to be honest, I have always felt really, really supported by the men in the industry. Um, they have nurtured me. A lot of them have volunteered to be my mentors and
Hmm.
connect to the people that I needed to be connected to, provide me support.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't want to get into this conversation where I don't want to and yes, it's a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
there be more women in it? Yes. Is it hard for women to navigate because it's a boys club? Absolutely. But
Hmm.
I think that generally, okay, so I'm the middle child of 5 kids,
Hmm.
and I have a younger brother and an older brother, and I'm right in between the older and the younger. So I think that, like, I sort of have, because of that, I sort of have, like, I know how to, you know, do business with the opposite sex, or
Right.
men. Or,
Yeah.
um, so I've never really had like an issue. And whenever I have conversations, people take my what I'm saying into account. And I don't know, I feel really supported by
Yeah.
men in these industries. I've never felt like I'm not going to do business with you because you're a woman. I
Hmm.
instead and I, instead I feel the opposite. I feel like they see me, and they're like, oh, they have a conversation. Maybe they don't know me at first, but then they'll start having a conversation with me. And I've seen, like, sometimes when I'm start talking about technology, and everyone's just like, oh, okay, you know what you're talking about. Okay, we need to
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
further. So I
Yeah.
think I also think it's a matter of being in a place where I can't be shy, and
Hmm.
I need to put myself out there, and I need to have those conversations, and I need to, sort of let people know that I know what I'm talking about. Because really, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. I think what
Hmm.
people really respect is if you know what you're talking about.
Right.
And they might not spark a conversation with you because they think, oh, this is a mining event and you're a woman, what do you know? But if you go out of your way to start those conversations, immediately it'll kick in, and everyone respects you and everyone wants to talk to you.
Hmm.
So I don't know, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to that question, because I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
really supported by men in these industries. And
Yeah.
I still am. One of my mentors in mining is a male. Like, I have a lot of respect as well, because they haven't been biased towards me. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel the same way not just in mining, oil and gas, construction, manufacturing. I feel the same way in tech. Like,
Mhm.
I've grown in this industry, but I've had a lot of support.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at the time when I started in tech, it was very male dominated. It's changed a little bit now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was supported by those men, and they trusted me, and I got to learn, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't put in the work. Don't get me wrong. It's not because of, them that I'm here. I put in the work, but
Yeah.
it didn't hold me back because of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So the space for you has been pretty welcoming. And, you're also coming in as a tech leader too into the space. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think there's a level of respect there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. And then, as a founder and, because I do know you, like, I know you worked incredibly hard.
I tried.
Incredibly hard, yes. And so, this is, all founders go through this. And occasionally, there's successes and there's fails, but there's never, successes without the failures. So, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that? Like in this field, like, has that happened and what did you learn from it?
Oh my God, so many failures. Do we have like 2 days? Um, you're right. You can't achieve success unless you've had a couple of fails. I think
Yeah.
failure it's really how you deal with failure, and, you know, being able to take a step back and realizing that you failed. I think the biggest mistake that people make is, failing, but not wanting to admit that they failed, and then just keep on going and keep spending money towards something that's a complete fail. I think it's really important, as a leader, to at some point to say, hey, you know what? I can't take this any further. It's not doing what I meant it to do. Something's not right here. I can't continue going on this path. I either stop, or I take a step back and I analyze where it's at and where it needs to be and what I need to do to get there, or pivot, whatever it may be. And, throughout Field Eagle, we've had to do that a lot, over and
Yeah.
over and over. But I think that's what makes a really good product great, is when you've worked with different clients who decided this is not the product for me, and then you learn, okay, why not? What do we need? Or, we build a sync engine and use, a specific tool that works great, but then a huge client comes along and we can't handle the sync data that's being done. And then it's like, okay, we got to transform this, and we got to figure out what we need to do to make it faster, or what technology we need to use. So there's a lot of trial and error, but it's good to do that at the start, and it's good to fail and test it and stop. And you know that we've done that a lot with Field Eagle, where we've had to take a couple steps back and say, crap, this isn't working. It sucks, it's my baby, and now I gotta like go back to the drawing board. And when we
Yeah.
first built the product, it wasn't even a SaaS-based product.
Yeah.
We said it was SaaS, but it wasn't SaaS. SaaS is a software as a service. It was
Yeah.
sort of a hybrid of it, but it was also early stages.
Yeah.
And we've learned since then, and we've created a 100% SaaS-based product now, and we've built new features, and we learn. And that's the other thing. You have to learn, like, as a leader or as a founder, like, you may have an idea to build something, but you have to accept that your idea is just the start of something. You have to work with a team. You have to be a good listener, and you have to cooperate with your clients. Like, if I don't have conversations with clients and understand what their needs are and what our system needs to do, we're always going to be in the failure path.
Yeah.
But if we listen and we say, you know what, these are the industries that we're working with, mining, for example, and this is the need in that industry. If we want to keep going in that industry, we have to make sure that our product can cater to that industry. And if we want the product to be available in 5 different industries, we have to make sure that it can support that. And that's continuous learning, conversations, and building.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of continuous customer development, right? And
Yeah.
speaking to the customers. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what about like, as a founder, like having the drive to keep going? because like how do you find inspiration to either pivot or propel the
Yeah.
product forward, like.
Um, I think naturally that's just who I am.
Mhm.
Again, it's probably got a little bit to do with being a middle child. So I've always had to like sort of push my way through things. But I think it's just being, you know, I I have days when I'm just down in the dumps and I don't really know what to do. But I feel like I've surrounded myself with like internally a really good team.
Mhm.
But I've also met connections and people that are in my life that if I'm having a really bad day, I can reach out to and say, you know, I just want to have a conversation and I just want to be able to vent. And I can't do that with my team. Can I meet with you for 15 minutes? And I have done that. And
Okay.
vice versa, now they feel like they can do that with me. So I do
Amazing.
I do have people that I can reach out to when I'm having those days, and they, out of that conversation of me venting, being like, I'm so frustrated and I don't know what to do, I'll get something out of that conversation where it's like, oh, you know what, I know this person I should introduce you to. And then the conversation that started with me venting about how frustrated I am and them venting about how frustrated they are and they have no one to talk to, but we can talk to each other, actually ends up being something very constructive. But I do feel that what really helps me when I'm really down is just reaching out to someone that I've known for a long time. And I do have a couple of people. And funny enough, they're actually all males. Um, but I'm able to reach out and say, listen, do you have time for just a Zoom call, or can we have lunch, or you have 5 minutes for a drink, and just be able to talk about it. I think just being able to talk about it to someone who's willing to listen is
Mhm.
actually enough.
Right. Right. So that kind of helps you get over those humps. So it's about surrounding yourself with the right people for support, right?
Yes,
Both within your
absolutely.
team and just in your life in general.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
like it's hard. You're responsible for an entire team of
Mhm.
development, of everything, marketing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I have to be on all the time. I have to be really careful with the things that I'm saying and doing. I don't want to insult anyone. I don't want to offend anyone. I want
Mhm.
everyone to be happy. And sometimes that's what takes the biggest toll on me. It's just not being able to be myself. If someone does something that I don't like, I want to be able to be just like, I don't like that. Do it again or figure it out. But I can't just come out and be like that, because then,
Mhm.
someone might get offended. And, a startup, your team is really your core, and it's
Yeah.
people that you need, that you're surrounded by, and they're the ones that are really going to help you get to the next level. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing this on my own. I'm not sitting in front of a computer doing source code. So sometimes it can just get exhausting from just leading a team. So it's
Yeah.
good to just sort of like, and I never take vacation. Like, taking vacation for me is like pulling teeth. So I do need the time sometimes to just have someone that I can sit and talk to and just unwind
Yeah.
and do that with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big leadership challenge, is that, you're a leader, but you're human, right?
Yeah.
And, to, make mistakes is human, right? So you might end up, letting someone down, and not intentionally, or, you might not always say the right thing. That's a big challenge for leaders, because we're
Yeah.
people, we're human, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're not perfect. You can never do everything perfectly. You can't always make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And that's when failure comes in, right? You have to make mistakes and
Yeah.
fail in order to learn from it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so what about, okay, so I know vacation is not your strong suit. So but like, yeah, so you have to, avoid burnout. So how do you kind of handle that? I know you
Yeah.
said you have a good network. I know you're like a big health techie too, but like how do you
Yeah.
manage like the not burning out?
Well, I have a rule. So, every day after work, whatever time it is that I decide to finish, I always step out of the house, or once I get home from the office, I put my gym clothes on and I always go and take a walk. That's 10,000 steps. I have to do 10,000 steps a day.
Wow.
And I don't check my emails while I'm walking. I just listen to some music. I look at the scenery and I just sort of just enjoy. And I've been doing that since the beginning of COVID, actually, just to get out of the house because we're all working from home. And it's now something that I've continued to do because it really helps me just sort of get my mind off and just refresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, another thing that I do a lot, like I always have in my purse a little notebook because sometimes when I get overwhelmed and stuff, I have all these ideas, they're in my head, and then I get frustrated at myself because I'll forget because I have so much going on. So now I always walk around with a little notebook, and whenever I see something or I have an idea, I write it down, and then I'll spend some time every night going through those ideas that I had, figuring out what I should do with them. Journaling is something that I do every night before I go to bed. I don't like take a notebook and physically write in it. I have an iPad with a keyboard and I just journal away. And I also think that's another venue for me to sort of vent about the things that I'm frustrated about, the things that I want to do. And in my journaling, like I'll create lists of pending items that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. And I'll leave it there because then I'll know that I can go back to it. And yeah, journaling has really, really helped me. And also during COVID, I actually started doing meditation. Yeah, you know, I'm a big health techie and I have devices for everything that I do. So I have a meditation device that not only like teaches me how to meditate properly, but it also keeps track of my meditation and it gives me the results of sort of my brain waves and where I was at during the meditation. And meditation is something that I really enjoy. And I do find that I need it because sometimes I do have days where I feel like I'm overwhelmed. And when I get overwhelmed, it's hard for me to get anything done. So that's a big thing for me. And another one is to-do lists. So I have obviously a digital to-do list. God forbid I should have it on paper and pen. I have a digital to-do list and I sort of like as things come up, I just write them down. I don't even set, times when I'm going to finish it. I just write it down because at least it's there. Because if it's not written down, I will forget. And the last thing, and you know this, I will not do anything unless it's in my calendar. My calendar is my life. I don't have 2 3 calendars. I have one. Everything is on it in different colors. My personal stuff, my business stuff, my all of the different things that I do, everything goes into my calendar. The first thing I do before I go to bed is check my calendar for the next day. And then the first thing I do when I get out of bed is check my calendar for the day. I know I checked it at night, but 8 hours has gone by or 7, whatever.
Might have forgotten.
I feel like being organized and having, and also when I schedule things, I try to leave some time in between just to like go grab a coffee and not feel so stressed. So like an on-site meeting with a client in the morning, I'll try not to schedule any more on-site meetings for that day. So I also feel like scheduling yourself is really important. And I know for a fact that's one thing that's really kept my sanity.
Yeah. You're almost kind of pacing yourself a little bit through your schedule as much as you can.
Yeah, it's also discipline, right? You have to be disciplined if you're going to take on all of these things. And I take on like everything. Someone calls me like, "Oh, you want to do this?" I'm like, "Sure." So I have to be disciplined, and I know that. And no one can do that for me.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Those are like great tips for people, and I'm, other founders that might be, watching this, from someone as experienced as you, should be taking notes for sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sonia, for coming and telling us about the product and, yourself and your journey with it, some industry insights, and, how to self-manage yourself as a founder. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope the podcast does really well. And if anyone has any questions for me about Field Eagle or anything else, we're going to provide all my information and you can reach out to me. I always respond. So please do reach out and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.